Okay, now I'm going to talk briefly about the bass line. One of the rules I like to say about the bass, 95% of the time I would say the bass line usually articulates the root of the chord on the downbeat of the chord. So if you listen here, you'll hear the root of each chord happening on the downbeat of every chord. From the A to the D. So just listen to the bass line. Once you've played that root on the downbeat, you can mess around and you can use other notes in the chord. You can even use scale tones or chromatic tones. Now what I've done is kind of come up with my own bass line. But it's just basically using any of the notes in the chords. For your A minor 7, and then for your D7. Now I'm using an octave pedal on my processing unit here. And then sometimes what I like to do is use 2 fingers in the style of an electric bass player. One of the things in these sort of Jaco Pastorius and a lot of these electric bass players, what they'll do is they'll sort of imply a lot of the subdivisions, very much in the same way that I was showing you with the bow. So if I slow this down, this kind of thing. Now, I'm not an expert at it, but I'll try to use a little bit of it, and that'll help us to feel that sort of subdivision happening even more. So let's listen again, and you can mess around with my bass line or come up with your own bass line if you want. Now, you don't have to use 2 fingers, and in fact, I would caution you that if you're using 2 fingers, be careful that you're not creating pain for yourself by bending your wrist here, because that can create carpal tunnel. So when I use this technique, I use it very sparingly. You can also use your thumb, you can use a pick, you could even use the bow, but the reason I like to do pizzicato is to get that percussive quality, especially when there's no drummer.